Well, good morning. Welcome to the May 22nd Sandag Board of Directors meeting. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, if we can get the flag up on the screen. And, you know, as we recite the pledge and look ahead to Memorial Day, I hope you'll take a moment to remember our fallen heroes. Our nation owes a debt to them and their loved ones that we can never fully repay. Please join me now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Before we jump into the meeting, I want to ask our clerk to confirm that we have a quorum. Tessa?
There you go, sir.
Yes, sir. We do have a quorum for this meeting.
Thank you. And if we can have everybody's microphones muted if you're not speaking. I think hopefully by now we've got the hang of these virtual meetings. We're going to try something new and complicate it a little bit more. We're going to have a pilot of live public comment. And that means public speakers will now have two ways to submit comments, either by email or verbally and visually through the webinar. Specific instructions as to how to do this can be found on the cover page of today's meeting agenda. I'd like to ask our General Counsel, John Kirk, to give us a quick overview. John?
Thank you, Mayor. At today's meeting, as you said, we're inviting the public to offer comments by live audio. And as described on the cover page of today's agenda, those wishing to offer live public comment on any item should register and log in via the GoToWebinar link, and then click on the raised hand icon, which is on the control panel, which should be on the top right of your screen once you are logged in, when the chair invites public comment on an item. You will be called on by your registered name after your hand is raised, and you may then offer comment for the allotted amount of time.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. I want to ask members of the public who wish to offer public comment not related to a matter on today's agenda to please raise your hand at this time so I can prepare to call on you. You will have 3 minutes to speak. I believe our first speaker, Tessa, do we have Miles Mcpherson? Tessa or James?
Yes, we got Miles.
Looking for.
Yes, Miles, you are self-muted. You can unmute. I can unmute you.
Pick that little microphone icon and click it off.
It says he's muted by an organizer.
Okay,
James,
here we go.
there.
Can
Oh,
you
there
hear
you
me
go.
now?
There we go. Hey,
How you
Miles.
doing? Hey,
All right.
thank you so much for your time. I want to thank all the mayors and everybody there for your service for the city. I'll keep my comments very brief. Obviously, COVID has done a lot of damage to our community financially, areas of mental health, disruption of businesses. There's a lot of fear, food insecurity, people in food lines that have never been in the food line before. And as a response, our church has done the normal things we do. We've been serving the community, feeding the community, fixing N95 respirators. But one of the things that we would love to do is call and invite the county to prayer. So we are organizing a prayer event June 20th, this Saturday of Father's Day weekend, and would love to invite the mayors to be involved in this and get their input. I saw a video several months ago from Brazil, where people were lining the streets 6 feet apart, 10 feet apart, whatever their regulation was because of COVID, on their knees praying to God. And it just brought me to tears to think about God's response to that. So we are going to organize an event called We Pray San Diego. And our desire is that, and we're partnering with churches from around the county, that it would be in all 18 cities, and that we would have We Pray Vista, We Pray San Marcos, We Pray Chula Vista, And it will be a partnership between the churches, the government, law enforcement, everybody in San Diego. It's not a church event, that we all could call on God and to receive a blessing from him. Jeremiah 29 says, I know the thoughts that I have for you. This is God speaking to us. I know the thoughts I have for you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace, not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. Then you will call upon me, go and pray, and I will listen to you. So I'm here to invite the mayors to a meeting today. I think all of you should have received a letter from me, if not most of you, at 3 p.m., a Zoom call to discuss your ideas. We want to get your input up front. We would love to choose an intersection in all your communities, between two communities, to join El Cajon and Santee, for example, Vista, San Marcos, and call people to pray. And so Mayor Voss has the link for the 3 o'clock Zoom call today. And so I would like to invite you to that to discuss this event. And so I appreciate your time. Thank you for the opportunity. And let me just pray for you. Lord, thank you for these important people who serve our community and lead us. I pray you give them wisdom and encouragement and strength to handle all the responsibility they have. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Miles. Tessa, do we have any other online public comment?
We do not have any general non-agenda public comments.
And none that we need to read into the record either?
Correct, not for non-agenda items.
Okay, perfect. Do we have any board members that would like to offer any public comment? Please turn your camera on and raise your hand. I'll give you just a second, then we'll move on. Okay, we will move ahead to Policy Advisory Committee Chairs reports. Do we have any PAC chairs with any reports to offer? If so, please turn on your cameras. I love it when a meeting moves so quickly. We will move on to item number 3, the Executive Director's report. Hassan, take it away.
Thank you, Chair Voss. Good morning, Board of Directors. A few items to update you on. Every 4 years, as a metropolitan planning organization, we go through a certification process. This is when our federal partners, Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit, either certify us or not certify us as the MPO for the region. This last week, we went through our 4-year certification. Elisa, Reyes, and Phil Tram of our staff made this effort, and what a job they did. The accumulation of 2-day meetings and many weeks of preparation resulted in a preliminary result of the certification. The results could be a corrective action, recommendations, and commendation. I'm happy to report to you today that there were no corrective actions. There were several recommendations, which we totally accept and appreciate, and we received similar commendation, specifically in the freight planning led by Kerry Robinson of our staff, the diversity and equity program led by Elaine Richardson of our staff, leadership and system engineering with kudos to Antoinette Mayer, Alex Estrella, and Peter Thompson, engagement with our partners, the tribal government led by Jane Clow, and establishment of the Office of the Independent Auditor, a result of AB 805 legislation headed by our excellent auditor, Mary Kay. As I said in the report, I've been through many of these in my career. You will be proud that your agency has been given kudos by our funding agencies. So at least for the next 4 years, this will be the MPO for the region. Shifting to just an update on the Mar Bluff. As I told the board several times, this is one of the agency's 5 priorities. My goal was to make sure we have enough funding to once and for all temporarily fix the bluff for the next 20 to 30 years, which means we needed to bring funding for Bluff 5 and 6. Bluff 4 is currently underway. Many discussion with the Secretary of Transportation and his team, with our partner NCTD. We are ready and able to submit a great application, and I believe I will have very good news for you sometime the next few months. I want to be able to say very shortly that we have done and completed and obtained all the funding for the short-term improvement and focus on the long-term work on the bluff that you allocated money for last time. On the regional transportation plan, we are still on schedule to release the draft regional transportation plan in April of 2021. We're still on schedule to take it for you in adoption in the fall of 2021. As I've been asked several times, will the plan meet the requirements? You will have no plan if we did not either meet or exceed that requirement. As Mayor Faulkner said it in the beginning when I joined Sandag, we need to be better than just meeting. And I think our plan is moving that direction. Analysis are being done right now. As you know, we delayed the unveil of the next step of the plan due to COVID-19. Spoken to the Chair of Transportation, Supervisor Desmond, and Chair of Regional Planning, Mary Salas, we thought it will be better to wait until we can come back together to present and unveil the vision, but we're ready anytime our leaders think we should. A lot of work, obviously, telecommuting and how much of telecommuting is going to happen in the future is going to be an important element of whatever plan we're going to adopt. In the previous plans, we assumed 12 to 15% of our workforce teleworking. We wait for the data, but we think that number will go up. Major construction projects, Mid-Coast Raleigh, in schedule, on budget. As a matter of fact, we're a few days ahead of time. Our crews are building the parking structure near the Noble Drive station. We're moving forward. Today is the last day to apply for the Sandag established shared street programs. We offered $5,000 to help cities or the county to temporarily share the street project. We have so far the cities of Santee, Oceanside, Imperial Beach, and Chula Vista who submitted for this program. The deadline is 5 o'clock today. If we get more cities, great. If we don't, we might have additional funding for the cities that submitted. Great program, take advantage of it. The deadline is 5 o'clock today. Just to address a little bit the state May budget revise, as you heard, the Governor Newsom released its May budget revise last week, announcing $54 billion decrease in revenues. It's unclear yet what the impact for transportation, but all indication is engineering and transportation project will continue to be there in anticipation of national stimulus. They were estimated to be $1.8 billion through 2024 of reduction in revenue in transportation revenues. Most of it will be in the year 20 and 2021. The sales tax is expected to go down by 27%, which affects transit and transit funding. National stimulus could change that equation, but we are monitoring the impact of the state budget on our region. Moving to the Los Angeles corridor, I think some of you know that last month our region received $40 million of transit and intercity rail capital program. That's $40 million more than we received last time, $5 million of which is going to the Bluff, $7.1 million is going to MTS for the Al Cajon third track project at the Al Cajon Transit Center, and 21.4 is going to the corridor agency, Los Angeles Corridor Agency, to design and construct a new maintenance facility in National City. We're continuing to invest in this amazing corridor, which we identify $3.2 billion in need. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any board comment on the executive director report? If so, turn on your camera. Tessa, do we have any public comment on the executive director report?
We do not have public comment on this item, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you again, Hassan. We will move on to the consent calendar. Do I have any board comments or questions?
Yeah,
Mr.
Desmond
Desmond.
here. Thank you. I'd like to pull item 5.
Okay, let's, what I'd like to do, because we have had a lot of public comment come in on item 5, emails received after the start of the meeting that they're going to have to be read into the record. So what I'd like to do is take the rest of the consent calendar. We'll hold item 5 until after the revised budget and the housing discussion, if there are no objections to that.
Well, we do have callers I'm aware of, I think are on the line to comment, but I'm not sure how many. Is Tessa know?
Yeah, well, I know that at this juncture, we have about 30 minutes of public comment we're going to have to read into the record. I think we can get through the budget item and the housing item fairly quickly and then get to that. It shouldn't be too long if that's all right with you, Supervisor.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. I will, looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 5. Alejandra, is that a motion?
I will make a motion to move forward with consent items with, didn't you say pull item 5? Or,
Pulling item 5 till later in the meeting.
okay, pulling item 5. So moved.
I'll second
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. Tessa, roll call vote if we don't have any public comment on any other items in there.
Yes, sir, there's no public comment on any other consent agenda items. And the roll call vote on the amended consent agenda, City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Corey Schumacher.
Schumacher,
You're unmuted
aye.
now, Councilman.
Aye.
City of Chula Vista, Mayor Mary Salas.
Salas, aye.
City of Coronado, Mayor Richard Bailey. You are self-muted, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
County of San Diego, Supervisor Jim Desmond.
Desmond, yes.
City of Del Mar, Mayor Ellie Haviland.
Haviland, yes.
City of El Cajon is absent. City of Encinitas, Vice Chair Catherine Blakespear.
Blakespear, yes.
City of Escondido, Mayor Paul McNamara.
McNamara, aye.
City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Serge Dedina. You are self-muted, Mayor Dedina.
Sorry, Dedina, yes.
Thank you. City of La Mesa, Councilmember Bill Baber.
Baber, yes.
City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Raquel Vasquez.
Yes.
City of National City, Mayor Alejandro Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
City of Oceanside, Deputy Mayor Jack Feller. Jack.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Yes.
City of Poway, Chair Steve Boss.
Yes.
City of San Diego, Mayor Kevin Faulkner.
Yes.
City of San Marcos, Mayor Rebecca Jones.
San Marcos, yes.
City of Santee, Mayor John Minto.
Minto, yes.
City of Solana Beach, Councilmember David Zito.
Zito, yes.
City of Vista, Mayor Judy Ritter. Mayor, you're unmuted now.
Vista, yes.
Thank you. That item passes unanimously with one member agency absent.
Thank you, Tessa. We will move on to reports item 11, the revised draft fiscal year 2021 Sandag program budget. Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members, and thank you very much for your comments in the last couple of weeks. Our staff did send you explanation for the questions that you received. In addition, we reached out to all of the board members to see if they have any questions. Today, we're ready to recommend to you the approval of the draft budget and a final budget to be brought back June 12th. Our CFO and his team are here to give a brief presentation. If you need a presentation on explanation of what happened, and with that, the recommendation on the screen, the CFO, Andre Grosjean, is here. And I'll turn it to you if you want a presentation or if you want us to answer a question.
Okay. Somebody does not have their microphone muted. If you could mute unless you're planning to speak. Mayor Faulkner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Hassan. Appreciated the conversation at our last meeting and the clarifications on the budget, particularly the administrative increases. And thank you for the additional detail that you provided to the board. I'm happy to move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Jones.
Thank you. For the good of the agency and all of the questions that were answered, I'd also like to, I'd actually second that motion. I'm looking forward to the transparency of our independent auditor reviewing the process, and then also the controls. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Any other board comments or questions? Give you just one other second to turn your camera on if you've got a comment or a question. I see a camera, but I have no idea what it is. It's Alejandra. Yes.
I'd just like to thank staff for their diligence and for the fourth time's a charm. You know, keeping the information flowing, but also to allowing us the flexibility as the leaders who, you know, oversee the budget to providing the information. And I would echo the sentiment of Mayor Jones, that transparency is evident. And so I too will third the motion, but thank you for Mayor Faulkner for making the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? I'm hearing somebody's microphone, but not seeing a camera on. Okay, we have a motion from Mayor Faulkner, a second from Mayor Jones to approve the revised draft fiscal year 2021 program budget. Tessa, do we have any public comment?
We do not have public comment on item 11.
Thank you. Please take the roll call vote.
City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Corey Schumacher.
Schumacher, aye.
City of Chula Vista, Mayor Mary Salas.
Salas, aye.
City of Coronado, Mayor Richard Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
County of San Diego, Supervisor Jim Desmond.
First, I want to say thank you very much for the clarifications from the Sandag staff, and yes.
City of Del Mar, Mayor Ellie Haviland.
Haviland, yes.
City of El Cajon, Mayor Bill Wells. Oh, he's absent. My apologies. City of Encinitas, Vice Chair Catherine Blakespear.
Shakespeare, yes.
City of Escondido, Mayor Paul McNamara.
McNamara, aye.
City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Serge Dedina.
Dedina, yes.
City of La Mesa, Councilmember Bill Baber.
Baber, yes.
City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Raquel Vasquez.
Vasquez, yes.
City of National City, Mayor Alejandro Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
City of Oceanside, Deputy Mayor Jack Feller.
Feller, yes.
City of Poway, Chair Steve Boss.
Aye.
City of San Diego, Mayor Kevin Faulkner.
Aye.
City of San Marcos, Mayor Rebecca Jones.
Jones, yes.
City of Santee, Mayor John Minto.
Minto, yes.
City of Solana Beach, Councilmember David Zito.
Vito, yes.
City of Vista, Mayor Judy Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you. That item passes unanimously with one member agency absent.
Thank you, Tessa. We will move on to item 12, the housing element deadline extension request. We've got Seth Litchney here. Item 12 is going to have two parts. The first relates to the deadline for each of us to complete our housing elements, and the second relates to scheduling the RENA public appeals hearing. I want to call on Councilmember Zito for housing element discussion first. And once we have finished our conversation on that, we can move on to the RENA discussion. Mr. Zito.
Oh, hi, thanks. Yeah, the this was just a request I brought forward because I was hoping that Sandag would take a position asking for a deadline extension on the HCD housing element requirement. Right now, as we know, we all have to get our housing elements by April 2021. Solana Beach, for example, started the process and had one public hearing before COVID hit. We were supposed to have another one in early May and another one in June, and those are not happening and are going to get delayed. And I think that it's going to make it very difficult for most jurisdictions that need to have these public hearings and public meetings to update their housing plans to get them done on time. So we've submitted a letter to the governor. I would like Sandag to take such a formal position to ask for a similar housing extension. It will have the added benefit of aligning the deadline with what we have with our updated RTP plans at this point, which is the end of 2021, by asking for at least a 6-month extension to the submission of our housing elements. So that's the general gist. Thanks.
Thank you, David. The board member, comments, questions?
I'd like to second the motion.
Yeah, I'd so move
Was
that.
that Mayor Salas? Yeah.
Oh, I thought you.
Was that Mayor Salas that seconded?
Yes.
Okay. Any other board member comments? Tessa, do we have any public comments?
We do not have public comments on item 12.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion from Councilmember Zito. Oh, Serge, did you have a comment?
No, I just wanted to comment on, I feel, I know we all deal with this in politics, the surreality of policy versus reality. For cities like Imperial Beach that want to build housing and have to spend lots of money on housing elements, it's great to have these paper plans, but the reality is we've been begging the governor, we've been begging the legislature, we've been begging all the regional places that actually have money to please build affordable housing. Ironically, in Marina numbers, it requires us to build more high-end housing that our residents clearly don't need and don't want. They can't afford the housing now, and now we go through the full housing process and drama, and the reality is we can't get a dime to build a single housing unit. And so, I know we all know that, but I think it's more important that we're now in a crisis in which our communities in South County are suffering from 30% unemployment rate, where we're trying to save our people from being evicted from the houses they live in that can afford, that we all really step up the game to demand that the governor and the legislature funnel money, shovel-ready money for the communities that actually want to build affordable housing. That's it. That's my rant for the morning, my coronavirus meltdown. And anyway, I thought I'd throw that out there. I know you guys all know that, but we need to get on it more than ever. Thank you.
Thanks, Serge. Mayor Vasquez.
Yes, would this be the appropriate time to speak about the RENA numbers?
No, we're
Yeah,
just
so-
talking about the extension right now.
Okay, I'll hold my comments.
No problem. Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for staff. I know that in other scenarios, because of the COVID-19, a lot of other elements and things that have been and or have deadlines from the state of California, they have graciously given us extensions. I'd like to ask staff whether or not we think at this time there's been any indication regarding housing numbers that they're going to be lenient with extensions.
Right now, as there is no indication from HCD either way, just reminding the board members that the League of California City did take similar action and requested, but yet to hear from the state of California. There's no word one way or another about, go ahead.
Now, I would just, because if we do ask for an extension, how quickly then would we receive response, or are we expected to receive response?
We don't know because again, the League of Cities asked for it a while back and there's still no response.
Thank you.
Mayor Haviland, did you have a comment or question?
Yes, I did. Thank you. My city sent a letter requesting an extension to HCD, so I appreciate today considering supporting that. I support Mayor Zito's comments, and I just like to reiterate that we are moving forward full steam ahead on our housing element, and this is one of the only projects that our city is still, during this budget crisis, fully funding. And if we get the end of this significant expense to our city and the numbers change and we have no time and no budget left to respond to that, it's making an already difficult process impossible. So I hope that we all are willing to at least request an extension on this so that we all have the time to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. David, did you have further comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that I also support the comment that Serge made, and I don't know, there could be a separate topic on that at some point, I guess. I mean, Solana Beach, we had to let a 10-unit, very low affordable project go because of lack of funding and couldn't get the funding, even though the city was willing to put over $1.5 million of its own money into the project. So getting funding from the governor for affordable projects would be awesome. But to me, it's a separate issue. But I also am supportive of that at some future point. But thanks for that.
Thanks, David. So we have a motion from Councilmember Zito, a second from Mayor Salas to support extending the housing element deadline. We have no public comment. Tessa, would you please take a roll call vote?
Thank you. On this item, City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Corey Schumacher.
Schumacher, aye.
City of Chula Vista, Mayor Mary Salas.
Salas, aye.
City of Coronado, Mayor Richard Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
County of San Diego, Supervisor Jim Desmond.
Desmond, yes.
City of Del Mar, Mayor Ellie Haviland.
Haviland, yes.
City of El Cajon is absent. City of Encinitas, Vice Chair Catherine Blakespear.
Blakespear, yes.
City of Escondido, Mayor Paul McNamara.
Escondido, aye.
City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Serge Dedina.
Dedina, yes.
City of La Mesa, Councilmember Bill Baber.
Baber, yes.
City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Raquel Vasquez.
Vasquez, yes.
City of National City, Mayor Alejandro Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
City of Oceanside, Deputy Mayor Jack Feller.
Feller, yes.
City of Poway, Chair Steve Voss.
Yes.
I'm confirming, I believe that City of San Diego, Mayor Kevin Faulkner has left the meeting, and Councilmember Vivian Moreno is now the voting member. Is she present?
Moreno, aye.
Thank you. City of San Marcos, Mayor Rebecca Jones.
Jones, yes.
City of Santee, Mayor John Minto.
Minto, yes.
City of Solana Beach, Councilmember David Zito.
Zito, yes.
City of Vista, Mayor Judy Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you. That item passes unanimously with one member agency absent.
Thank you, Tessa. And now for the second part of this item, just to remind folks, we originally planned to wait to have the RENA appeals hearing when we could meet in person again. Last week, however, several board members asked that we go ahead and move forward with the hearing, as we're really not sure when we're going to be able to meet in person again at Sandag. Supervisor Desmond, I believe you raised this point. Would you like to make any comments?
Well, I raised this point to the cities that had had the appeal in to see if they were going to be willing to, if they were okay with having the hearing, and I'd kind of like to have them weigh in to see if that's appropriate or not. So I don't know. I want to hear from them as far as having the hearing and their comments on it. I just think it may be a while before we actually have that open hearing and we're all back together again. Thank you.
Thanks. I see Mayor Vasquez back on my screen again. Raquel. It appears you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So happy to join you here for the Sandag meeting. And yes, I would like to briefly speak about the RENA appeal hearing. Now, the city recognizes that the appeal hearing may be scheduled in June or so, but we would prefer that it take place in person. And we believe that this is achievable. The state of California has approved this, the San Diego County to move faster and farther into stage 2, allowing in-person customers at various businesses with modifications. And this is a step in the right direction. And it is because of the exceptional work of leaders throughout the county that this has taken place. The city believes that this acceleration will allow Sandag to come back together in person sooner than anticipated. And as you know, in-person interactions are so much more meaningful. In fact, they're more impactful. If the appeal was heard in person, it would allow the city of Lemon Grove to present our argument face-to-face and for the general public to participate in person at the time of the hearing. Ultimately, if the housing element deadline was extended, then we would like to extend the appeal hearing as well.
Thank you, Raquel. Mr. Zito.
Yeah, ideally, we would be able to do it in person, but I believe Solana Beach is okay moving forward at this point. Presuming we are able to have a meeting like we are today where the public can actually participate. I don't think it's as effective where people are having to write in letters, but with the public being able to participate and call in and make comments, I think we would be okay moving forward at this point. Understanding it's not ideal, but would still obviously want us to stick to all of the other requirements, such as noticing and everything. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Salas.
Yes, for our particular community, I would prefer that we hold off only because we have a large percentage of people that do not have access to internet. There's a big problem with the digital divide. And so we really believe that it's important to have one-on-one interaction with our community as much as possible. And I also agree with Raquel that perhaps, we may see an opportunity in the very near future to conduct those kinds of meetings.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Bailey.
Thank you, Chair Voss. Coronado would echo Councilmember Zito's comments. I think our preference, of course, would be to have an in-person meeting. However, our main objective is to achieve clarity on what the future arena is going to look like for our city. And given that it is, we're unsure at this time when those appeals could actually be heard in person, we would feel comfortable moving forward in the near future with a virtual appeal.
Thank you, Mayor Bailey. Mayor Dedina.
Yeah, I just echo literally everything Mayor Bailey and Mayor Zito said. I would absolutely not support any time in the near future putting hundreds of people together in a room until we have a vaccine for this, at least me, but I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. I'm going to reiterate, this process is absolutely absurd given the nature of this crisis and the fact that we can do appeals and paper planning all we want. In my city that wants to build housing, we can't get a single dollar to do so. So having Sandag waste its time and all our cities waste its time on this paper planning process that has absolutely no impact on getting housing on the ground is just an example of having us focus on things that don't matter when we should be focusing on getting funding from Sacramento to build housing in the cities that need it and want it, at least in our case. So that's my second soapbox, and I hope our legislators and our governor's assistants are hearing, because I'm tired of the acrimony and hypocrisy of talking about how much we need housing, and yet the low-income cities that are suffering the most can't get a dime to build it.
No,
Thank you, Serge. Would somebody's not muted? That's better, I think. Well, a comment and a statement. I would welcome the opportunity to have this in person. I think that would be the best way to do it. However, I think we're probably looking at August at best before we might be able to meet in person again. Just think of the number of board members in the Sandag boardroom and the need for the physical distancing. We've got a ways to go before we're going to be able to do that. Whereas if we do it virtually, and I think we've proven today that we can take virtual comment, it's not as good as in person. I agree with Mayor Vasquez, but we can have people on their Zoom or whatever it is. We could do this process on June 12th. So I would be looking for a motion to that effect. Supervisor Desmond, I see you on my screen.
Well, I don't know if this is maybe too complicated, but maybe for the city, I mean, I don't think it was a group appeal. I think everybody appealed at the same time just because of the timeline. Maybe the cities that want to move forward, let them do it, and we'll wait for the other ones that want to do it in person. I don't know if I know it's two meetings on the same thing, but they're separate appeals. So I'd be open to that, but I'm going to let those cities make those motions.
Supervisor, that's actually a great suggestion. If that was a motion, I would be happy to second it, that we take the cities that want to move forward on June 12th and take Mayor Vasquez at a later date. Lord knows when that might be, however. Mayor Vasquez, I see you back on the screen.
yes, and I'm in agreement with that. So we would prefer a later date if that's achievable for our appeal.
Okay. Seth, I see you popping up on the screen. Did you have a comment you wanted to add? And I also would like to hear from John Kirk if we can separate these and do them as Supervisor Desmond suggested. Seth.
Thank you, Chair Voss. I just wanted to let the board know that the steps that need to be taken are the board needs to approve or needs to make a decision on all of the appeals prior to issuing a final RENA plan. And we won't be able to do that until all of the appeals have been heard and all the decisions have been made. So if we delay one appeal, we won't be able to continue moving forward, and we won't be able to release the RENA plan and the final RENA numbers until all of those appeals have been heard and a decision's been made by the board.
I knew there had to be a fly in the ointment or something in the something. John Kirk, anything you want to add to that?
Seth said it perfectly, Your Honor.
Okay, I will then withdraw my motion. Apologies to Mayor Vasquez, but we're going to need to do this all together. I would entertain a motion to schedule the hearing for June 12th. Mayor Vasquez, did you want to speak again?
Yes, I'd like to request that our appeal be held at the last meeting in June. Would that be possible?
I would have to defer to Hassan. Can you tell me?
Yes, we could do it till the last meeting in June if that's the wish of the board.
And Raquel, let me just ask you, it's a difference of 2 weeks. Are you hoping we're going to be in person then? Because I can tell you we will not be.
That is not the hope. It would just provide an opportunity for us to get more feedback from our community, but also to be better prepared to present. And so that is our request, that we are heard at the end of June.
Okay. Is that a motion then to hear it at the second meeting in June? That would be June 26th.
Yes.
Okay, Mayor, thank you. Mayor Sotelo-Solis.
I just had a question for staff with that 2-week pushback. Does that delay anything, or is it a significant with the 2-week delay? Is there
No.
anything? No. Okay.
No,
So as long as we get it done by June, we're good. Okay. I will second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Zito.
I was going to second, but I'm supportive. Thanks.
Okay. Any further board comment or question? Okay, we have a motion and a second to schedule the hearing for, I believe it's June 26th. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Any public comment, Tessa, on this?
I do not have public comment on this item 12.
Thank you. In that case, please commence with the roll call vote.
City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Corey Schumacher.
Schumacher, aye.
City of Chula Vista, Mayor Mary Salas.
Salas, aye.
City of Coronado, Mayor Richard Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
County of San Diego, Supervisor Jim Desmond.
Desmond, aye.
City of Del Mar, Mayor Ellie Haviland.
Haviland, yes.
City of El Cajon is absent. City of Encinitas, Vice Chair Catherine Blakespear.
Blakespear, yes.
City of Escondido, Mayor Paul McNamara.
McNamara, aye.
City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Serge Dedina.
Medina, yes.
City of La Mesa, Councilmember Bill Baber.
Baber, yes.
City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Raquel Vasquez.
Vasquez, yes.
City of National City, Mayor Alejandro Sotelo-Solis.
Sotelo-Solis, aye.
City of Oceanside, Deputy Mayor Jack Feller.
Feller, yes.
City of Poway, Chair Steve Voss.
Yes, ma'am.
City of San Diego, Councilmember Vivian Moreno.
Moreno, yes.
City of San Marcos, Mayor Rebecca Jones.
Jones, yes.
City of Santee, Mayor John Minto.
Minto, yes.
City of Solana Beach, Councilmember David Zito.
Zito, yes.
City of Vista, Mayor Judy Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you. That item passes unanimously with one member agency absent.
Thank you all. Moving on to item 13, the Buena Vista Lagoon Enhancement Project. This is a great story. For those of you that have been on the board for a while, you may remember staff first came to us to seek action on the Buena Vista Lagoon EIR in 2018, a different lifetime. At the time, there remained a difference of opinion on the best way to move forward. So at the request of the city of Carlsbad, a motion was approved to delay action to allow residents to reach a consensus on the enhancement efforts. Staff's done an incredible job of bringing people together in a collaborative fashion, and staff is here today to present a solution that all sides were able to sign off on. I really want to applaud Keith and the rest of the Sandag team for all your hard work, and the community for its hard work and collaborative effort. for getting us to this point today. So Keith, I will let you take it away. Let's get Keith up there. You seem to be muted, Keith.
All right, let me try this.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Chair Voss. Good morning, and Chair Voss and members of the Board of Director. I'm really pleased to be presenting item 13 today before you. This is the adoption of a resolution 2021-05 approving the modified saltwater alternative and certifying an EIR. Lots of people have worked very hard to reach consensus on this project. You may recall that last June, I provided a status report on the project at your board meeting. At that time, I was optimistic about reaching consensus on a compromise solution that we refer to as the modified saltwater. We had started environmental and engineering studies on that compromise solution, and I'm pleased today to be recommending the modified saltwater alternative and the certification of the EIR to the Board of Directors. But let me back up. Why does the lagoon need enhancement? Next slide. The lagoon has accumulated sediment that has caused the expansion of these brown cattails in this picture. Over the last 30 years, the lagoon has lost more than 60 acres of open water. This is expected to continue over the next 50 years until all the open water is lost, leaving a sea of cattails. The current conditions have resulted in poor water quality, general increase in flooding, increase in mosquito and the risk of mosquito-borne disease, and general reduction in the ecology of the lagoon. This will only get worse in the future. So what is being done about that? Next slide. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife has been trying to strategically create pathways through this cattail to open up the channels so that the county health department's effort to control mosquitoes can become more effective. Unfortunately, the equipment needed is much larger than this little marsh master can do. Complicating the issue is that the cattails are now occupied by federally listed endangered species. In 2001, the state of California started an enhancement effort, including a feasibility study and the preparation of an EIR. The project, however, was suspended in 2011 due to lack of progress. Next slide. At the request of the cities of Carlsbad and Oceanside, Sandag was asked to take over the lead for the preparation of the EIR. Sandag accepted this task given the lagoon's regional values and its inclusion into the North Coast Corridor as a potential mitigation site for future improvements on the I-5 and 78 interchange. Next slide. This red line is a jurisdictional boundary between the cities of Carlsbad and Oceanside. So you see that the lagoon actually is bifurcated by two jurisdictions. Also, unlike most lagoons in the region, the lagoon consists of both public lands, shown here green, blue, and brown, and private property, shown in yellow. You will note that the private property are the ones closest to the oceans and most important for doing any enhancement in the lagoon. By its very nature, the enhancement work will directly affect these property owners, including the modification of a weir. You may ask, what is a weir? Next slide. So weir is nothing more than a small wooden dam. In this case, it was built in the 1970s. It's 50 feet wide and keeps the water elevation of the lagoon at about 5.6 feet. This is close to the observable high tides. Sometimes the water flows into the lagoon at very high tides, but more often the weir precludes the water from flowing out of the lagoon, keeping this constant water elevation. Similarly, water flows from the ocean into the lagoon at storms or king tides, but most of the time there's a nice little beach in front of the lagoon, allowing pedestrians to walk along the beach. The weir and the properties around the weir are key to the enhancement of the lagoon. Next slide. So the request of the Sandag board, Sandag utilized the Caltrans real estate division to look at the ownerships of the weir and the surrounding properties. A couple notes here. The property was legally acquired and is in private ownership. There are 5 overlapping and outdated easements over the properties given to the cities of Oceanside and Carlsbad. You can see from this illustration, sometimes the easements overlap each other, sometimes they're not even identified directly to the parcels. Each easement also allows or prohibits certain activities. So it's complicated. You've got 2 jurisdictions, multiple owners, public and private, multiple easements, and the required permits by several state and federal agencies. So with this complication, where are we with this project? Next slide. In November 2018, the final EIR was presented to the Sandag Board of Directors for certification. At that time, we had 4 alternatives in the final EIR: the no project alternative, which is in the upper left-hand corner, as required by CEQA; an alternative that would have dredged out the lagoon for freshwater, that's the upper right-hand corner. The bottom left-hand corner says a saltwater alternative, where the lagoon would be opened up to the ocean. And finally, there was a hybrid alternative shown on the bottom right, where the lagoon would have saltwater west of I-5 and freshwater east. At the request of the city of Carlsbad, a motion was approved to delay any action on the project for 6 months to allow Sandag to work with the property owners and residents to see if a compromise solution on the enhancement action could be reached. The meeting with the property owners that own the inlet and the surrounding properties resulted in this modified saltwater alternative. And what it is, it's a variation of the saltwater alternative that combines the saltwater east of I-5, shown in that little box, red box on the left-hand panel, and combines it with the saltwater components of the hybrid alternative, shown in a red box on the right-hand panel. So it's a combination of these two alternatives, the variation. So what it looks like when you put them together, next slide, is this is the modified saltwater alternative. It consists of the removal of the weir and the creation of a new 100-foot wide channel inlet to the ocean. So that would allow tidal flushing and help the water quality and reduce flooding. It consists of a channel guide to allow tidal flow to move throughout the lagoon as proposed in the hybrid alternative. Has a wider open saltwater system in the central basin and saltwater habitat east of I-5. So it's a very solid proposal, and we have done the engineering and environmental studies on it. Next slide. An e-blast went out in February to over 1,300 stakeholders, indicating that there was available information on new documents on the modified saltwater alternative, included engineering analysis, environmental analysis, and updated cost estimates. You can see it here is the website picture and the e-blast that went out to the public. Next slide. I wanted to go over two aspects. Next slide. Two aspects of the project. The first would be the summary of the EIR conclusions, and the next would be the benefits. So not surprisingly, the modified saltwater alternative, shown here in the magenta box, has the same environmental impacts as the saltwater and the hybrid alternative. To refresh your memory, the EIR had 11 resource areas that had impacts. The significant red impacts in red are bad, they're permanent impacts. The orange ones are temporary impacts that go away after construction, and the ones with a peach color with M can be mitigated to below low significant. So in this case, this slide is just showing you that there is no change in the terms of the impacts of the modified saltwater from those of the saltwater alternative, the hybrid. The benefits of the project are also similar. Next slide. All the alternatives have greater benefits than the no project, which is shown here in gray. This slide looks at the benefits of the alternatives for 4 key objectives: flooding, endangered species habitat, water quality, and reduction of mosquito habitat. Next slide. You will see as we put in the modified saltwater, the benefits are similar to those of the saltwater alternative in terms of flood reduction, water quality, and reduction of mosquito habitat. And there's slightly more open water, which has slightly less habitat available for the modified than the saltwater, but much more than the other alternatives. So it's a very solid proposal, both from a impact standpoint and also from a enhancement standpoint. So where are we going? Next slide. Here's our recommended approach. We propose that the board today certifies the EIR. This would lock in the modified saltwater project as the alternative. Furthermore, the conditions of approval today to enter into a master agreement prior to final engineering that does the following: identifies the terms of agreements, relinquishes all the prior easements and replaces new easements prior to construction. Replacement easements will provide at no cost and avoid using eminent domain. And the master agreement to be signed with all those property owners that own land around the inlet and the weir, and the cities of Carlsbad and Oceanside who actually own the easements, as well as the Department of Fish and Wildlife who owns land, and Sandag. Letters of support for this approach have been received from the owners of the weir and the inlet properties. That's Appendix 6 of your report. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife and Buena Vista Lagoon Audubon Society, Appendix H, and the California Coastal Commission and Sierra Club provided by the clerk of the board. In addition, the city of Carlsbad has approved this approach at their May 12th meeting. So wrapping it up on next steps, here's the proposed next steps. If the board takes, next slide, please. There we go. If the board certifies the EIR today, back one slide, please. The board certifies the EIR today, we will go out and seek funding for final engineering. Upon receiving funding for final engineering, we'll enter into a master agreement with the property owners, City of Carlsbad and Oceanside, and California Department of Fish and Wildlife, which then will lead us into creating this recreation of final easements prior to an invitation for bid, and ultimately leading to a construction of a lagoon. You're going to ask me about two things: funding and timing. I have to say this project is not currently funded to move to the next step of final engineering, though I am optimistic that we've been working with the state and the federal resource agencies about securing funding, and we'll report back to you when we have that funding secured. And timing. You're asking when probably the next steps of and ultimate construction is. We can't give that to you right now. We're going to be working on finding the funding for the next steps as we move forward. The key, though, is to get this project as shovel-ready as possible. So in conclusion, the final slide. The recommendation is the Board of Directors is asked to adopt the Resolution Transportation Committee Resolution number 2020-05, which is attachment 7, regarding the Buena Vista Lagoon, and approve the modified saltwater alternative as the project certifying the final environmental impact report, adopting the findings, the statement of overriding consideration, and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, which are attached in 7A through C. That concludes the presentations. Myself and Mr. Shiraz Tangri of Myers Nave, who has served as our outside legal counsel, can help answer any questions you may have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Keith, for that. Councilmember Schumacher.
Thank you very much. First, I just wanted to thank the board, number one, for putting your trust in the community, in Mr. Greer, and in the process. This was a hugely successful outcome, as Chair Voss, as well as Mr. Greer mentioned. Our community came together around this in a pretty tremendous way. It's a model for how to do work within the community moving forward, I would say. So with that, I would like to make a motion to approve the staff recommendations, and also request that the board direct staff to continue to engage the public through a minimum of twice annual presentations and/or open houses as a standing item at the Buena Vista Lagoon Joint Powers Committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Mr. Feller.
Good morning, everybody. I'm afraid to be seen on camera with this COVID, so this isolation. The true kudos go to Keith bringing all of the stakeholders together. The community who actually own the Weir made some great concessions, and I think that's a testament to the flexibility of our communities when they look at the good that this will do. And I absolutely will second this motion. There is one downside. We're probably going to lose several billion mosquitoes from this, and that will be a welcome sight and on all the people that live around that lagoon. This is going to be great fun to watch going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. If there are members of the public wishing to speak on this item who are online, please raise your hands now so we can prepare to call on you. We'll take board discussion first. Let me just say, I would urge us to find a way to move this towards the finish line as quickly as possible. My understanding is that saltwater mitigation credits are hard to come by, and Sandag and Caltrans certainly would have the opportunity to use them down the road as we do other projects. So all haste towards the finish line would be appreciated. Serge.
Thanks. As chair of the Shoreline Preservation Working Group, I just wanted to thank Mr. Greer, but all the stakeholders. I echo my colleagues' comments. This is an absolute model of stakeholder, community-driven, and science-driven process. It's exactly the kind of process you want to see, and I think it's a testament to the honest brokerage of Mr. Greer and the Sandag team for bringing people together. I think some of us were at the meeting when it didn't seem like that would be possible, and when other state partners weren't able to carry that out. So it's really critical. I look forward to seeing the leopard sharks that go up that channel when that weir is gone. And more importantly, I think if you're a fisher, you're going to enjoy all the fish that'll be spawning in that site that haven't been able to now. So it's a win-win for the coast, for our fisheries, as well as the community and all the residents around there. So great job, everyone. And again, kudos to the Sandag staff, Mr. Greer especially, for being an honest broker and being able to sit down and take a paper plan and actually help to make it a real plan. I look forward to hopefully surfing there and maybe with Corey in the future when that's all restored. Thank you.
Thanks, Serge. Do we have any other board comments or questions? I know we've got at least one member of the public wishing to speak. Board members, last call. We will go to public comment. I know we have Ed Pert online. Can we get him up?
Yes, I think I'm unmuted now. Good morning, Chair. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Voss, board members, and Sandag staff. So my name is Ed Perd, and I'm the Regional Manager for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife South Coast Region, headquartered here in San Diego. And I want to state for the record the department's support for the modified saltwater alternative for all of the reasons mentioned in Keith's report. I also want to thank Sandag for taking on the role of lead agency for this project. It would have never happened without that. Your staff did a fantastic job. I want to thank Keith Greer in particular for his outstanding work, not only in coordinating the environmental review process, but also in bringing the various parties together to develop a compromise that we can all live with. And lastly, I want to thank the landowners who participated in this process, who worked diligently and in good faith toward finding a mutually agreeable solution. That was not easy. It's been going on for a long time, but the landowners remained at the table throughout the difficult process and allowed all of us to build a trust that ultimately resulted in the current solution. So I want to offer a big thank you to John, Paul, Bud, and others. They know who they are. I also want to quickly mention that if the project is approved, as Keith mentioned, the department will work with our partners to find funding for the planning and implementation phases of the project. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I hope that the board approves the project.
Thank you, Ed. Tessa, do we have any other public comment?
I did not receive any emailed public comments, and I do not see any other hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. I believe we had a motion from Councilmember Schumacher. I'm not sure I heard a second from Mr. Feller. Do we have a second on this?
I did second that.
I knew that, Jack. I was just testing you. Tessa, would you please take the roll call vote?
Yes, on item 13, Councilmember Corey Schumacher, City of Carlsbad.
Schumacher, aye.
City of Chula Vista, Mayor Mary Salas.
Salas, aye.
City of Coronado, Mayor Richard Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
City of San Diego, County of San Diego, Supervisor Jim Desmond.
Desmond, aye.
City of Del Mar, Mayor Ellie Haviland.
Haviland, aye.
City of El Cajon is absent. City of Encinitas, Vice Chair Catherine Blake Spear.
Blake Spear, aye.
City of Escondido, Mayor Paul McNamara.
McNamara, aye.
City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Serge Dedina.
Dedina, yes.
City of La Mesa, Councilmember Bill Baber.
Baber, yes.
City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Raquel Vasquez.
Vasquez, yes.
City of National City, Mayor Alejandra Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
City of Oceanside, Deputy Mayor Jack Feller.
Yes.
City of Poway, Chair Steve Voss.
Yes, ma'am.
City of San Diego, Councilmember Vivian Moreno.
Moreno, yes.
City of San Marcos, Mayor Rebecca Jones.
Jones, yes.
City of Santee, Mayor John Minto.
Minto, yes.
City of Solana Beach, Councilmember David Zito.
Zito, yes.
City of Vista, Mayor Judy Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Did we get San Marcos vote on the slide? Thank you. That item passes unanimously with one member agency absent.
Interviews.
Thank you, Tessa. Moving on to a brief item. This is information only. AB 805 state mandate test claim update. Mary Kay.
Good morning, Chair Voss and members of the board. I hope everyone's doing well. I wanted to give a brief update on the state mandate. Looking at the flow chart, if we have that available. If not, I've provided it in your agenda packages. We were successful in having a test claim. We're kind of in, if you refer to your flow chart in step 1, We were successful, and on March 19th, we filed a test claim with a little bit of additional information provided to the Commission on State Mandates. They accepted the test claim on April 19th, and now it is currently at the last step in step one, in the last section of step one, which is up for public comment. I wanted to thank the board members that have already provided support for the public comment, and also encourage others who have not to do so by May 29th before 3 p.m. Anything after that they won't accept. And then we'll move on to the next phase, which is step 2, where they decide if they are going to propose that and accept it as a decision. If that occurs, we have a tentative date of September 25th for a hearing, where they then determine that it is in fact a proposed decision, and then we would move into a parameters and guidelines and developing all that. So it's really good news. We had a big win so far, I would say. Just encouraging the board members to provide their support before May 29th, and we'll move forward from there. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Any comments or questions for Mary Kay? Supervisor Desmond.
Yeah, Mary Kay, thank you very much for input and for knowing about this process to try to pay mandate. I don't know, could you point out, is there a website or where we send an email, or where in the package here that you provided today? I just
Actually, I provided an email with a quick link because it's rather lengthy to get through that process, but I did send an email to Sandag's that they were supposed to send out to the board members, and it's a quick link. If you just click on that link and upload your support, it will go right to the Commission on State Mandate, and I can make sure that gets sent out again today. So board members who don't have that information are able to submit their support for the mandate again before May 29th.
And maybe it already got sent out, but I guess if that did be coming from Tessa, I would imagine. So look for that email.
And yes, Tessa or Robin, I'm not sure. And I also know that Mayor Voss submitted, I believe, an overall support on behalf of Sandag as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. But the more support we have in total, the better. So I encourage everyone to do it individually as well. And I know several members have done so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Any other board member comments or questions on this informational item before we check for public comment? Tessa, any public comment on this item?
Thank you, Chair. I have no public comment on item 14.
Thank you very much. I can't see who it is that's talking to me.
Oh, this is Vivian. I do have a question. If Sandag's test claim is successful with the Commission on State Mandates, how much reimbursement should we expect to receive from the state? I understand that this amount must still be determined by the Commission, but what range are we expecting?
Well, they offset any amounts, of course. So for my position, membership fees would automatically be offset because that's already being paid by membership fees. But for the additional positions that I currently have, the 2 positions I currently have, and the additional requested positions that are needed for the office would fully be reimbursable at that point. So, you know, probably around $500,000 or $600,000 of the cost, if we were to get everything a year, would be reimbursable. And the good news is we can go back from April of 2019 forward and capture all those past costs. Again, if the mandate isn't funded every year, we also would still be that funding would still be available to us once the mandate was funded. So it's good news in that it will absorb a lot of the increased costs, and that's really what we need to prove is this is an increased cost for Sandag that would not have existed or occurred had it not been for the state mandate.
There's Vivian. Vivian, you're muted.
I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm excited. I hope we get it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary Kay.
Oh, no, this is informational
This is
item, right?
information only.
Got you.
though.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary Kay. Now we will circle back to item number 5 that Supervisor Desmond pulled off of the consent calendar. That's approval of a proposed contract award and solicitation. And my apologies to those members of the public that we've made wait on this, but we do have quite a few public comment items that we're going to need to read into the record. That's going to take a fair amount of time. Having said that, Mr. Desmond, take it away.
Well, I guess, does the staff have a presentation on this item at all? I'd like to see that if they do.
This is Julie White, the Director of Contracts and Grants. What I can tell you about this item is it involves 2 different approvals. One is for the construction management on-call procurement. We anticipate that we're going to need construction management services and have provided you a list in attachment 3 of those various items that we believe will need construction management services. And so the request is to do a procurement for on-call construction management services in the amount of $150 million as a max. And then the other item on this particular board agenda item is the approval of a contract with a contractor to manage and maintain a property that was purchased for mitigation purposes back in 2011 with the help of Caltrans for mitigation on Transnet projects. So I understand there's quite a bit of public comment and perhaps specific questions with regard to trail access for that particular property, Lilac Ranch. And so Keith Greer is available to answer questions as the manager of that project if there are questions.
So,
thank you, Julie. Jim.
Chair Voss, do you want to, I guess there is a map, if we could get that map up on the screen of what this property is and what it looks like. We provided that to Tessa. Hopefully she has that and can put it up there. There it is. This is not the Lilac housing project that many people are familiar with. This is Rancho Lilac, and this is about a long-term habitat conservation area that it was actually Caltrans had to purchase it. I think it was for the 78 or 76 road improvements. Is there public comments that people standing by, or I don't want to repeat what they might say. So I'd rather hear from the public first, and then I won't be repetitive, or we won't be repetitive on this, if that's okay.
Well, that would be fine. Tessa, do we have folks online first?
See any raised hands? James, would you please confirm that?
Confirmed. No raised hand at this time.
We did have some written materials that I think were forwarded to the board that were received in advance of the meeting. However, we have at last count 33 comments that Tessa will need to read into the record. Those are limited to 1 minute each of reading. So if you'd like, we can dive into those.
Thank you, Chair. First public comment from Andrew F. Bob Rolfe from Valley Center, California, to the Sandag Board of Directors regarding item number 5. Dear Board, I urge the Board of Sandag to approve continuance for further review the proposal to transfer ownership of Rancho Lilac's 900 acres to San Diego Habitat Conservancy. As that scheme makes no allowance for public access via the use of trails, it should be removed from the calendar until a better solution for the parcel can be explored. San Diego County Parks and Rec have submitted a proposal to Sandag and Caltrans to acquire the Rancho Lilac property as part of the county park system. This would be far better for the community, permitting public enjoyment and oversight of this precious oasis in an increasingly overdeveloped portion of our county. Please remove the proposal to transfer ownership off the consent calendar and approve continuance for further review. The next public comment is from Scott Hansen. in Carlsbad, California. Dear members of the board, on behalf of the San Diego Mountain Biking Association, I would like to ask that you take the proposal to transfer ownership of Lilac Ranch off the consent calendar and provide a continuance for further community discussion. Lilac Ranch was acquired with taxpayer money and has a taxpayer-funded endowment. The taxpayers who funded this property need an opportunity to voice our desires for the management of the property. The San Diego Mountain Biking Association believes in a reasonable and sustainable public access for the public on taxpayer-funded lands. Lilac Ranch is a golden opportunity to provide an asset to the community while meeting the needs for habitat preservation through active land management. The San Diego Biking Association would greatly appreciate the opportunity to be heard and provide input on the Lilac Ranch before an irreversible decision is made. The next public comment, Joanne Berg. Honorable members of the Sandag Board, I am writing today to strongly request that you ensure that any management plan for the Lilac Ranch and Valley Center includes a plan for riding, biking, and hiking trails. My name is Joanne Berg, and I live in Encinitas at the southern boundary of the La Costa Preserve, which, as you know, is open for riding, biking, and hiking. There is no dearth of wildlife in the preserve, including a resident mountain lion, bobcats, coyotes, rabbits, birds, snakes, and many others. It is a beautiful place and well respected by those who use it. Also, until 2012, I was co-owner of a property on Running Creek Road in Valley Center, which abuts Lilac Ranch. So I am familiar with the history, usage, beauty, and value of the ranch. Strong reliance was placed on the promises of appropriate recreational access to this land when the transfer was made to Caltrans. Among many of the things we have learned during this pandemic, we have certainly been reminded how important outdoor recreation is for the well-being of human beings, especially in such beautiful and natural places as Lilac Ranch. This ranch must not be closed off to public access. To the contrary, I encourage you to thank you. The next public comment from Joaquin Aganza, Friends of Hellhole Canyon. Sandag Board. Friends of Hellhole Canyon recommends tabling item 5 on today's meeting agenda in order to study options for management of the Rancho Lilac Preserve. We support a mixed-use approach for this preserve, allowing for equestrian and hiking trails while protecting habitat for wildlife. San Diego County Parks and Recreation does a great job conserving Hellhole Canyon and other preserves while providing access for hikers and equestrians to enjoy our natural resources. SDCPR should be considered for management of Rancho Lilac. The next public comment, Michael G. Hurst, Valley Center Trails Association. It has been said, in the end, we will conserve only what we love. We will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we are taught. The proposal to transfer ownership of Rancho Lilac to San Diego Habitat Conservancy will deny the public any hope of understanding the workings of 900 acres of future natural habitat. A parcel this size has tremendous potential as habitat, and if shared with the public through a managed access program, will become a prize to be understood and loved for generations to come. It is questionable if SDHC has the experience and resources to optimize this property, as its 900 acres is equivalent to half the total acres currently under their management. This current responsibility is spread over 27 properties. This is clearly a project of scope best managed by San Diego County Parks and Recreation. It is also worrisome that this transfer appears on the consent calendar of the agenda, a situation that doesn't allow for discussion or public comment. At the very least, there should be opportunity for public comment. I believe that's 1 minute. Next public comment, Madeline Wagner. Dear sirs, madams, my comments, questions below pertain to item number 5. I am in favor of trails and public access to Lilac Ranch Valley Center. I have been riding the trails in San Diego County for more than 40 years. In that course of time, many trails have disappeared, and we are losing more and more areas to ride every year. I implore you to give great consideration in allowing public access to Lilac Ranch Valley Center. I strongly encourage the Board of Sandag to take the proposal to transfer ownership off the consent calendar and approve continuance for further review. The proposal on the agenda has no comment, suggestion, or discussion of providing trails and public access to the property. After the transfer to San Diego Habitat Conservancy, the public has no assurance or guarantee of public access or use of the property. SDHC has commented they intend no trails on the property. According to the SDHC website, they currently manage 1,850 acres on 27 properties. They have little experience with large parcels. Rancho Lilac's 900 acres would be by far their largest property. Do they really? Thank you. That's 1 minute. The next public comment, Rebecca Oznick from Escondido. Dear board members, I just heard that you were talking about Rancho Lilac today. I am asking you to take the proposal to transfer ownership off the consent calendar and approve instead a continuance for further information and review. What is now public land should be available to the public. What good is 900 acres of pristine land that has no trespassing signs and the public has no access to? Well, we don't want to destroy the landscape of this area. Hiking and riding trails make it accessible, but still manageable, and makes it useful to the public whose taxes paid for it. I have a horse and love to go riding throughout San Diego. That's what makes San Diego County great. Please consider taking the above action and reviewing this proposal in detail with public comment before you make any decision. Next public comment. Brenda Stearns. Rancho Lilac is a gem to our rural area. As our population has increased, it has become increasingly harder to find safe places to hike and bike and ride horses. Places previously open are now being fenced off by new owners and groves are being developed. Public access to Rancho Lilac would create a safe, beautiful space for many to enjoy. The property was acquired with taxpayer money and the endowment funded with taxpayer money. Therefore, the public should be allowed access. Trails are good for community health and well-being, as is evidenced by the increased interest and demands by the public for more open space and trails. By county standards, Valley Center is extremely underserved by parkland. At this time, the community has never been given an opportunity to comment regarding the use of this property. If the property were to be developed for housing or business use, the community would be allowed to comment. Why have all negotiations were behind closed doors? May we have a public meeting to allow the community to provide input as to the best use of the property? Why is this important item on a consent calendar on a Friday before a holiday during a virtual meeting? Thank you. That was 1 minute. Next public comments, Pam Klein, Valley Center. Greetings to the board of Sandag. You are currently addressing the proposal to approve that the executive director execute an agreement for transfer and long-term management of mitigation land, specifically the 900-acre property Rancho Lilac in Valley Center, to San Diego Habitat Conservancy. I ask that you postpone this decision by allowing time to better consider the option of allowing San Diego Parks and Recreation to provide stewardship. This is a serious long-term decision that merits more scrutiny. I am a 67-year-old second-generation San Diego County native and have lived adjacent to the Rancho Lilac estate for 36 years. I am an advocate of wildlife preservation and the conservation of our dwindling open spaces. I mourn the loss of our ability to traverse our county and observe our county's countryside and wildlife on a deep personal level via horseback like I did when I was young. That sounds bucolic, and it was. You might think that kids raised in Valley Center had it much the same as I did growing up, but you would be very mistaken. It is largely, thank you, that is 1 minute. The next public comment, Marion Walters. Bullet points in favor of trails and public access to Lilac Ranch Valley Center. Please put into your words or add your own ideas. Encourage Board of Sandag to take the proposal ownership off consent calendar and approve continuance for further review. The proposal on the agenda has no comment, suggestion, or discussion of providing trails and public access to the property. After the transfer to San Diego Habitat Conservancy, the public has no assurance or guarantee of public access or use of the property. SDHC has commented they intend no trails on the property. According to the SDHC website, they currently manage 1,850 acres on 27 properties. They have little experience with large parcels. Rancho Lilac's 900 acres would be by far their largest property. Do they really have the capacity to restore the habitat, manage the property, and restore the historic buildings into perpetuity? The property was acquired with taxpayer money and the endowment funded with taxpayer money. Therefore, the public should be allowed access. Trails are good for community health and well-being, as is evidenced by the increased interest and demands of the public for more open space and trails. In February 2020, San Diego County Parks and Recreation submitted a proposal to Sandag Caltrans to take on the Rancho Lilac. Thank you, that was 1 minute. The next public comment submitted by Anita Scheibel. As a Valley Center resident, please consider the following points. encourage Board of Sandag to take the proposal to transfer ownership off the consent calendar and approve continuance for further review. The proposal on the agenda has no comment, suggestion, or discussion of providing trails and public access to the property. After the transfer to San Diego Habitat Conservancy, the public has no assurance or guarantee of public access or use of the property. SDHC has commented they intend no trails on the property. According to the SDHC website, they currently manage 1,850 acres on 27 properties. They have little experience with large parcels. Rancho Lilac's 900 acres would be by far their largest property. Do they really have the capacity to restore the habitat, manage the property, and restore the historic buildings into perpetuity? The property was acquired with taxpayer money and the endowment funded with taxpayer money. Therefore, the public should be allowed access. Trails are good for community health and well-being, as is evidenced by the increased interest and demands by the public for more open space and trails. In February 2020, San Diego County Parks and Recreation submitted a proposal to set. Thank you. That was 1 minute. The next public comment submitted by Bridget Schilling, Sandag Board of Directors. I would like to encourage you to please take the proposal to transfer ownership off the consent calendar and approve a continuance for further review. In your review, I hope that you consider opening up the land to the public with trails for hiking and equestrian use. The Valley Center community loves its trails, and with the growth that we will be experiencing with the new developments, more open space and trails are more important than ever. There are many compelling reasons to consider this request. The property was acquired with taxpayer money and the endowment funded with taxpayer money. The public should be allowed access. In February 2020, San Diego County Parks and Recreation submitted a proposal to Sandag/Caltrans to take on the Rancho Lilac property as part of the county park system. The staff does not discuss the county's proposal and apparent rejection of the county's proposal. The county is well suited to manage a large mixed-use parcel, as they have done so well with Mission Trails, Hellhole Canyon, and the Ramona Grassland. The proposal on the agenda has no comment, suggestion, or discussion of providing trails and public. Thank you. That was 1 minute. Next public comment submitted by Eric and Kim Fleming in Valley Center. To whom it may concern, we are residents of Valley Center and are in favor of trails and public access to Lilac Ranch Valley Center. We like to hike, trail, ride our horses, bicycle, and enjoy the beauty of the area. We encourage the Board of Sandag to take the proposal to transfer ownership off the consent calendar and approve instead a continuance for further information and review. There are several compelling reasons to consider this request. The property was acquired with taxpayer money and the endowment funded with taxpayer money. The public should be allowed access. In February 2020, San Diego County Parks and Recreation submitted a proposal to Sandag/Caltrans to take on the Rancho Lilac property as part of the county park system. The staff report does not discuss the county's proposal and apparent rejection of the county's proposal. The county is well suited to manage a large mixed-use parcel, as they have done so well with Mission Trails, Hellhole Canyon, and the Ramona Grassland. The proposal on the agenda has no comment, suggestion, or discussion of providing trails and public access to the property. The proposed transfer to San Diego Habitat Conservancy. Thank you. That was 1 minute. Next public comment submitted by Doug White. Hi, longtime Keys Creek Valley property owner. Very excited about the mitigation, purchase, and use. It would be a shame to eliminate the hiking and potential equestrian activities. Doug White, in Keys Creek Road. The next public comment submitted by Bonnie Kaler. Please allow for trails and public access on this land. Thank you. The next public comment submitted by Ralph Charlanti III. Dear Supervisor Jim Desmond and board members, I am a volunteer board member with the Friends of Hellhole Canyon and live in Valley Center with my wife and our daughter's family, including 4 grandkids who all enjoy hiking in the beautiful outdoors of Valley Center. The Valley Center Trails Association is our partner organization, and I'm writing this letter to offer support in the effort to keep the 900 acres along Keys Creek at Rancho Lilac open to public access to its historic buildings and proposed trail system. Please support our efforts to keep the trails open to the public. Thank you. The next public comment submitted by Anastasia Schwartzbach from Valley Center. As a local resident and property owner in Valley Center, I urge the council members to vote so we, the residents, can use Rancho Lilac for trails. Thank you. The next public comment submitted by Ted Schwartzbach from Valley Center. As you are considering the future of Rancho Lilac, I am asking, as a property owner for this board, consider and place the management of Rancho Lilac to allow public access, including trails for hiking, biking, and horseback riding. Valley Center is growing with high-density housing, and the region's plans must include places for outdoor recreation. I strongly urge the board to make Rancho Lilac Trail accessible. Thank you. The next public comment submitted by Regina Roberts, Valley Center resident. Good morning. I'd like to express my desire to allow public access with hiking trails and picnic areas in the Rancho Lilac property being transferred to the San Diego Habitat Conservancy. This is a beautiful piece of property that belongs to the people of California and needs to be accessible for its best use. Please allow public access by hiking trails and picnic areas. Thank you. Next board comment is received from Jeff Freeman, San Diego. Hello, board members. Rancho Lilac needs to be open to the public with trails. The Valley Center area is extremely underserved by parklands. Trails provide access to the public for things like hiking, biking, and riding horses, all outdoor good exercise and fresh air activities. Having the public on natural public land helps protect the area. The public becomes a second set of eyes to report any problems. To have 900 acres of habitat restored but with no public access feels like a crime to the San Diego County residents. I am asking the board to approve a continuance for further information and review so we can comment on this land area proposal. The current proposal on the agenda has no comment, suggestion, or discussion of providing trails and public access to the property. Thank you for listening and for your consideration. Next public comment submitted by Kathy Woolman. Dear members of the board, I strongly urge you to allow the 900 acres of Lilac Ranch to be open for trails. Trails enhance the community, enriching it with a respect for the local habitat. Citizens can act as stewards of the property and teach the next generation how to care for and love our natural environments. Again, I urge you to allow for trails. Thank you. Next public comment submitted by Tom Hunt. My parcel shares a 3995 foot long property line with the Rancho Lilac property. I would support limited public access that strives to balance the needs of restoring the habitat. Rancho Lilac is the legacy of Irving Solomon, a man instrumental with the creation of the United Nations. There is a rich history of ranching, equestrian, and visitation by world-renowned visionaries. Is the public's only viable option to vote the forever define this historic legacy by a chain link fence with thousands of no public access signs? Please vote to consider additional options. Thank you. The next public comment submitted by J.C. Neasley. I support the February 2020 proposal submitted by the San Diego County Parks and Recreation to take the Rancho Lilac property as part of the county park system as they currently manage Mission Hills, Hell Hole Canyon, and Ramona Grassland. I firmly believe that the public should be allowed access to the Lilac Ranch property in Valley Center, California. The connection and interaction between people and nature is becoming increasingly important. The natural world needs to be something that individuals and families can be an integral part of. I am in favor of making a portion of the 900 acres of Lilac Ranch open to the public for low-impact outdoor recreational activities. This is a wonderful opportunity to make an impact on future generations of Valley Center residents to remember and experience what a beautiful place Valley Center is. Thank you for your time, and I hope to hike the trails. Next public comment submitted by Robson Splain. Please make the West Lilac Ranch available to residents for hiking and walking, as we were given to believe it would be. Thank you. The next public comment submitted by Patricia Riggs, President, Dehesa Valley Community Council. I am not a resident of Valley Center, but I'm very familiar with the area as I have family that resides in Valley Center. I've been involved in multiple use trails for over 40 years and have seen the benefit derived for trail users, both physical and mental. I now see Valley Center being overrun with development and losing its recreational space. A promise made in 2011 for trails in the Rancho Lilac should not be ignored. Regards. Thank you. The next public comment submitted by Donna Hine, resident of Valley Center. I would like to encourage the Board of Sandag to take the proposal to transfer ownership off the consent calendar and approve continuance for further review. The current proposal on the agenda has no comment, suggestion, or discussion of providing trails and public access to the property. If this land is transferred to the San Diego Habitat Conservancy, the public will have no assurance or guarantee of public access or use of the property. SDHC has commented they intend no trails on the property. According to the SDHC website, they currently manage 1,850 acres on 27 properties. They have little experience with large parcels. Rancho Lilac's 900 acres would be by far their largest property. This property was acquired with taxpayer money and the endowment funded with taxpayer money. Therefore, the public should be allowed access and multi-use trails provided for the enjoyment of the public. Trails are good for community health and well-being, as is evidenced by the increased interest and demands by the public for more open space and trails. San Diego County, thank you. That was 1 minute. Next public comment submitted by Roshanak Kloon. Dear Sandag Board, Friends of Hell Canyon recommends tabling item 5 on today's meeting agenda in order to study options for management of the Rancho Lilac Preserve. We support a mixed-use approach for this preserve, allowing for equestrian and hiking trails while protecting habitat for wildlife. San Diego County Parks and Recreation does a great job conserving Hell Hole Canyon and other preserves while providing access for hikers and equestrians to enjoy our natural resources. SDCPR should be considered for management of Rancho Lilac. Thank you. The next public comment submitted by K.H. Herbert. The property was acquired with taxpayer money and the endowment funded with taxpayer money. The public should be allowed access. Please allow for walking trails. Thank you. The next public comment submitted by Pam Hetherington. Please do not allow access to mitigation lands without the proper scientific vetting. We lose too much important habitat land to short-sighted decision-making. This land is mitigation land. What circumstances dictated its preservation? Only once this is all vetted to the satisfaction of intent of the mitigation should any use be allowed. Thank you. The next public comment submitted by Laura Hunter, Chair, North County Conservation Committee, Sierra Club. Good morning. Please support the San Diego Habitat Conservancy management of this property. As we understand it, it was intended as a net environmental benefit for the improvements to 76. Please support the compromise that was struck when the road was improved. Please support the Habitat Conservancy management of this land. Thank you. The next public comment is submitted by Carol Carlson. My comments on item 5 at the May 22 board meeting. I am a hiker with concerns about the closing of this property to the public. We have waited a long time to get trails there and hope it is not closed to us. We all enjoy the beauty of this property and would love the chance to have trails there. I recently hiked Half Dome and the Grand Canyon, but need trails closer to home for weekly activity. Thank you. Next public comment submitted by Debbie Simpson. To whom it may concern, as a 35-year resident of Valley Center and a Valley Center Trail Association member, I am concerned with the proposal to transfer Rancho Lilac to the San Diego Habitat Conservancy. The proposal on the agenda has no comment, suggestion, or discussion of providing trails and public access to the property. As of this date, there has been no opportunity for the community to provide input. By county standards, Valley Center is sorely lacking in parks and trails systems. I urge you to take the proposal to transfer ownership off the consent calendar and approve continuance for further review. Thank you. The next public comment submitted by Lori Vonderwood. I am in support of trails in Valley Center. As our community grows, it is important to have a safe area for walking, running, and riding. Thank you. The next public comment is submitted by Marilyn Weinbarger. I am writing asking you to postpone the transfer of ownership off the consent calendar and approve continuance for further review. I am a resident of Valley Center. Excuse me. I believe that the public who pays the taxes should have access to public lands. The San Diego Habitat Conservancy has not stated plans to allow the public access or plans for public trails. The placement of trails in our community has been a welcome one. The existing trails are well used and a bonus to our area recreation. We need more areas of open space and well-maintained trails. The San Diego County Parks and Recreation Department is capable of doing a good job at this. Please remove this consent item from today's agenda. Think this through more and allow for more discussion and comment. Closed-door negotiations and last-minute placement of the issue on today's agenda do not serve the public good. However, trails and access to wild areas are good for all of us. That concludes the public comments I've received on this item.
Yeah, so you're going to need something for your throat after that. Thank you for your reading. Supervisor Desmond.
Well, thank you, Tessa, and you did a wonderful job with that. Wow, very good. Okay, so I was trying to checking things off that I didn't want to repeat myself here, but just, this is a 902-acre property in Valley Center that in the county, we put together a proposal for this back in February of this year. And the proposal, we never received a ranking. I understand we didn't hear any feedback on our submittal. And this is the first time we saw it come before, the Sandag, and all of a sudden is an agenda item. The county, we currently manage over 50,000 acres of parks and parkland preserves. The San Diego Habitat Conservancy manages less than 2,000 acres. And the county, we have trails throughout the county system. And frankly, we have more resources available to make sure we have proper preservation of the habitat. One of the complaints I got from some of the constituents was the community was never given an opportunity to comment on the best use of the property. I also want to mention that the county had proposed no motorized access on any of these trails. And anyone who's visited, the preserve systems of the county, we've always maintained them very well. It's actually a trail connection on this. The property would promote healthy communities by providing a multimodal pedestrian access to trails and open space. And a trail connection also helps the county meet our climate action plans by promoting walkability and open space. One thing that wasn't read, it was actually mailed out the other day by Tessa, is actually from the San Diego Habitat Conservancy, and I'll read this, it's very short. Dear Sandag Board, the San Diego Habitat Conservancy is willing to work with the county when a trail is proposed on the property. Well, as you saw on the map, we've already had this trail proposed on the property for many years. It was promised when the land became mitigation land. So they said when it's proposed on the property or in the vicinity, items to be addressed regarding potential trail would include cultural resources, biological resources, liability, public health, safety, management, and responsibilities. And then they say, and costs and other issues as pertinent. So they don't really describe, the San Diego Habitat Conservancy doesn't really describe what those are. But one of the issues they have in here is costs, which is usually, the San Diego Habitat Conservancy is a great group, great organization. They mean well. But the smaller conservancies don't always have the resources sometimes to manage these types of properties. Whereas the county, we do have those multiple resources. So I'd like to make a motion for the Sandag staff to meet with the county's parks and staff and continue negotiations, allow the county to provide any feedback or new information as requested, and conclude negotiations with the county and maybe with some other conservancies out there. But this is mitigation land for the 76, and I also request that when the item comes back, that it go to the Transportation Committee, where we hear at that body, about mitigation land and updates, once the county negotiations have concluded, and provide a recommendation then to the board. So I'd like to ask for the continuance, continue negotiation with the county and the conservancies, make sure we make the best use of this land, and that the trails are put in place and we have the best opportunity for long-term conservancy.
Thank you, Jim. I'd be happy to second that motion. Vice Chair Blakespear, did you have a comment?
Yes, I did. Thank you. I just wanted to weigh in that I do tend to agree with the public comments that were asking for public access for this 900 acres. And I wanted to understand from staff if the land that was acquired for this biologic mitigation under Transnet, does it prohibit public access, or why is it that we were headed in that direction with this contract with the San Diego Habitat Conservancy?
Keith, I'll call on you.
Yes, Vice Chair Blakespear, I can answer that. Again, this is Keith Greer. I think there's a misunderstanding here. The management of the property does not prohibit trails. What the contract would do is set up a process where the contractor, in this case, the proposed San Diego Habitat Conservancy, would have 18 months to develop a management plan. And in that development and management plan, there would be a community outreach process which would allow them to gather input about what the uses should look like in the future. So it's not prohibiting trails. It's allowing the community them time to build a management plan out and have all those uses in terms of which areas should be protected and which areas could be opened up to the public.
And could you weigh in about the negotiation with the county? The supervisor made some good points about the amount of resources the county brings and the amount of land they manage.
Absolutely, and the county park and recreation staff I hold them in the highest regards. I think they're a wonderful group and they do a wonderful job of managing our open space in the region. The unfortunate part is that the county did not apply for the RFP process back in 2014. So there's no way that we can work with the county while we're still negotiating under this RFP process. And I don't know the exact legal terms. I think our general counsel can talk about contract law, but we have to conclude this RFP before we can start, I think the term is bid shopping to other entities. John Kirk, maybe you could add to that.
Yes, ultimately, we do have to follow our procurement process on this. This is a formal procurement, just as if we were buying other goods or services. And because we opened this, we had a proposer, and within the time frame that was specified in the request for proposals, and that closed, we do need to conclude and find if there is a deal to be made, a solution with the proposer who did timely propose. If we found that there was not a deal to be made in that with that person, we could walk away and we could reopen this. The board could direct us to stop negotiations with that person and to restart the process. There is some legal risk in doing that, since they have definitely expended resources in good faith as they have followed the procurement process.
And let me, I may, Vice Chair, to this. This is Hassan. We did approach the county before. Maybe things change right now, but they weren't interested in bidding. And I believe in one discussion, the county bid would be about $500,000 more, right, Keith?
That's correct. The current bid that they have in.
Yeah. So it's not that we didn't want the county. We did approach the county. The county didn't bid. Our processes had somebody we're negotiating with. You could obviously take an action of stopping this, but like our legal counsel said, there is a risk to the agency.
Okay. Well, I'll just say that I don't have obviously enough information, I'm sure the other board members don't, to say who should be the recipient of this contract. But to me, it seems that we should be headed in the direction of allowing public access. And so if there are documents on file from the San Diego Habitat Conservancy that indicate that they are not looking to allow trails, then that does seem to me to be a non-starter. So I don't know if with this motion should go in the direction of directing to negotiate with the county, or if we should direct that there be more consideration of these concerns that have been raised by the public and the board, and come back with a different path forward from this agency. But I'll let others speak. But I am uncomfortable moving forward with this, given that the public comments seem to indicate that public access was not going to be allowed, and I do think that should be one of the primary benefits of this habitat mitigation. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Serge?
Yeah, first, when I'm hiking, I think in the eastern reaches of Supervisor Desmond's district, or at least in the mountain part, the highest reaches, I'm overlooking potentially the site this weekend. I'm going to think of, this is for the record, maybe the strongest support I've ever seen of the environments in my time at Sandag. So who knew, Supervisor Desmond, that you are a tree-hugging earth firster? I am absolutely inspired by that. So thank you. I'll have a big smile overlooking your district this weekend. So I appreciate that. But more than that, I appreciate all the comments. I saw you smile there, so that's good. If I can make you smile talking about being a tree hugger, that's a good day at Sandag. So I want to thank all the residents who've spoken about open space. I think this crisis has only illuminated our innate need to be in the open space and our great outdoors, and whether it's on the coast or in East County or anywhere in the county. So I appreciate all the feedback, and of course our county supervisor's strong support for open space and conservation and recreation. So I'm going to not weigh in on the technical details of who should manage the contract, but say that I strongly support the fact that we need to make sure that we have public access and trails and conservation and a consultative process in sort of in line with the way Sandag works. So that's it.
Thank you, sir. It's Mayor Jones.
Thank you. I'm actually a hiker, so I do love having access to trails. We have over 72 miles, Mayor Dedina. A lot of us really love our open space and our trails for sure. Okay, so I'm a little concerned about the lack of public access. I personally would like to see what we can do. I don't know that I have enough information just based on some of the discussion here today. Of moving forward, only because I don't want to put us in a legal bind, but I also, I for one know of a property that's here in the city of San Marcos that was controlled by a mitigation bank, a smaller mitigation bank, and they weren't able, they actually abandoned the land. So it's just there. I know that sometimes they go out of, I wouldn't say business, but they leave. So anyway, I'm kind of thinking that we should maybe get more information and come back at a later date. I would love to see the county have control of it, only for the fact that they are such a, well, for one, they're one of our partners, they're part of us, right? But I think it also has to do with us being able to have the ability to have greater control of the public access. I'm very uncomfortable us not having that access for the trails, because many of our trails, as we know, all connect with different cities and the county as well. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. So I would probably go along with the motion on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Mayor Minto.
Thank you. I agree that I would like a little more information. It seems like an awful long time ago, an awful lot of us weren't on the board of directors at that time. And so it would have been nice to have seen, unless I missed it here somewhere, the actual original request for bidder on it. And that way we would be able to see if there was a condition in the original proposal for trails and things of that nature, because not having information like that, I have to say, if it was the bid went out and said we don't want any trails there, and then they come back, a qualified bidder comes back and doesn't add trails, then I think we have a contract problem if we don't move forward with it. So I like to see if it was very specific or a little bit more ambiguous or open to ideas. So is it possible to see the original request for proposal on that?
John Kirk, I'm guessing you might be the best to answer that.
In terms of seeing the request for proposal, absolutely, we can make that available through our contract staff. Obviously, that's probably not something that you're going to review as you consider this item today, but regardless of what happens with this, we can make that available to all the board members.
Well, I think that'd be great, because the idea would be to table this until we do get that look, or we could have maybe John, you could actually indicate in there that there was a request that there not be trails, because do you see where I'm saying that if they have matched the proposal, then to come back, here we are several years later to say, okay, now we've changed the proposal. I think that's a contract issue and proposal issue.
Absolutely, and I'll point out that this is not just a low bid where we say exactly what we want. This is an RFP where we say generally what we're looking for, and different organizations can come in and show how they can meet those needs in different ways. So that might or might not be specifically called out in the RFP that there will or will not be trails. I would expect that it may well be silent on that. More that the more operative things that we need are enough to get mitigation credits and to have a sustainable funding stream to make sure if they walk away, we can address those. But ultimately, to answer your question, we can get you that RFP and you can make those determinations for yourself and we'll guide you in that.
Okay, because if it is silent on that, that does give us some room to make some other decisions or give further direction, or even rule that it may not at this point be a qualified bid as far as the board's concerned. Is that correct?
Those are all possibilities.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Desmond, yes.
You know, I realize my motion was probably kind of convoluted there. They usually are. But the Conservancy, actually, the San Diego Habitat Conservancy says, you know, they are willing to work. But with the county, when a trail is proposed and a whole bunch of different, you know, issues that have to be resolved with that. You know, one of the things, if we approve this today, is the Conservancy then has it. And it seems kind of like putting the cart before the horse, because then they're going to go and ask the community what they want. And then they're going to go and open up, you know, and take input. When technically then the Conservancy is an unelected body, they can do with it what, you know, as long as they're conserving it, and they could fence it off permanently. So if the county does it, you know, we you know, guarantee, and we're an elected body, and we'd have to, you know, answer to the voters on this. So I think, you know, there's two things. The fact that today cements the deal. If we go ahead with this with the Conservancy, I don't think we should do that. They should get the input before that. And then also, and another item is, you know, a RFP since 2014. Are you kidding me? How long do we keep these things open for? And it just seems kind of, so I guess I'm willing to change the motion to, you know, take this off the calendar today, or and ask staff to continue to work with interested parties and come back with more information on this, so that we can potentially move forward with the best possible Conservancy matters. And one of the things that, you know, I will point out again is for the county, this feeds into our climate action plan, and we get credit for that, for connecting our trails. Whereas if it goes to the Conservancy, the county doesn't get those credits or accolades. And yes, Serge, I would love from the HOV lanes to drive by and see people hiking this trail from the 78. So thank you.
Vice Chair Blakespear.
Say that again?
Thank you. Yes, so if the motion that you just made, which you had modified, is to bring back more information in light of the comments offered by the board members today, then I think that's a great way forward, and I would be happy to support that.
Yeah. And I will say, as the seconder of the original motion, I'm happy to be the seconder of the replacement motion. Any further board comment or questions?
Yes, this is Vivian.
Vivian, fire away.
Hi, I'm just wondering if staff can let us know when the process started, what the process was. So that's my first question. And the second question is, what legal ramification are we setting ourselves up to if we put out an RFP and followed the law with the RFP? Everybody who responded or didn't, and now we're changing it.
Mr. Kirk.
Mayor, if I can, there's two parts of that. And I'm going to ask if we can have Julie Wiley, our contracts director, to talk about the specific history of this one. I think she can offer more specificity on that.
Yes, so let me just say that how this works is we put first a request about managed property back prior to 2020, and at that time the county used it. That's why RFP
Julie,
was.
it's very hard to understand you. You're going in and out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this any better?
I think you'll be fine. Everybody else, though, make sure that your microphones are muted.
So
Go ahead, Julie.
I'll start. So we did inquire with the county before we put the RFP out back in 2014 if the county was interested in managing the property. And the county was not interested at that time. That's why an RFP was put out seeking private sector or nonprofits that might want to manage the property. Then we got in a couple of proposals. The scoring information is in the board agenda item, and San Diego Habitat was the highest ranked proposer.
I'm sorry.
Now,
how long do our RFPs go out? How long are they out?
so the RFP, I do not know the exact information. It was likely out for at least 30 days. But I would have to double check that, and I'm happy to do that. The bottom line is that we two proposals in, and it has taken a very long time to negotiate the deal on this property because it has contamination and other issues associated with it. And so the negotiations took years. Then when we got close to completing the negotiations, I believe Supervisor Desmond learned that a deal was getting close. And so we were contacted by the county about potentially submitting a proposal to manage the property, but that was not until 6 years after the RFP process was completed. And the proposal did come in from the county. It is significantly higher than what's proposed with San Diego Habitat Conservancy. All that being said, the bottom line question on the legal, we certainly can look at talking and renegotiating or negotiating further with San Diego Habitat, keeping the county and the public's interest in mind with regard to trails. There's no liability to the agency associated with continuing the negotiations. As far as canceling the RFP goes, that is something that is possible. However, there are concerns, obviously, probably from San Diego Habitat about the amount of money and time they've spent negotiating with us over the last 6 years.
Okay, so the county came in 2018 and told Sandag that they wanted to oversee the land. Is that 6 years after 2012?
It was 2014 that the RFP went out, I believe, and the county's proposal just came in the last couple of months. Keith can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Keith, you're muted.
Sorry, Chair Boss. The county came in October of 2019, expressing interest in the property, and we just got their bid proposals in February. And again, that was all outside the RFP process. We did approach them prior to going out for an RFP, as is their usual tradition. And at that time, they said it was too far away from any of their current land holdings to actually express interest, which is why we went to the RFP process back in 2014.
Councilmember Moreno, any further questions? Hang on, Jim.
I muted. I was muted. Okay, and then Sandag said that there will be an outreach plan once this contract is approved to determine what trails will be open. Is that correct?
Yes, I can address that. This is Keith Greer. Yes, there is a management plan that's required, and yet the Conservancy would have to put 18 months to prepare that, and there is an outreach plan included in that management plan. So working with the neighbors, working with the state and federal agencies to determine how to best manage the property.
Okay, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Do we have other board members with comments or questions for staff or for Supervisor Desmond? And Mr. Kirk, if I'm not mistaken, Supervisor Desmond's motion doesn't really address all that was on the table for item 5. There were 2 parts. You want to explain that?
Yes, if we could go back to the staff recommendation on this, this involved two different contracting transactions. And the second one, I think, had to do with a construction management contract. What is currently on the table does not include that solicitation for the construction management services. Either the current motion could be amended to include that so we don't have to vote a second time, or we could take a second, could have a second motion and a second vote on the second part of this.
Thank you, Mr. Kirk.
I'd be willing to include to authorize the executive director to conduct the solicitation for the construction management on-call service contracts. I'd be willing to include that in the motion.
Okay, and I'd be happy to remain the second on that motion. Board, further comments or questions? Vice Chair Blakespeare.
Yes, thank you. So the recommendation, the recommended action the wording of it to me doesn't seem that it commits us to San Diego Habitat Conservancy, but reading the staff report, it seems like it does. So I wanted to understand that better. That number 2 item, when you're including that, that means we are moving forward with San Diego Habitat Conservancy. Is that right?
Mr. Kirk?
Maybe I can jump in here. This is Julie. Yeah, as the staff report shows, we were planning to move forward with the contract award to San Diego Habitat Conservancy with your vote today, as well as the construction management contract. I believe what's showing on the screen is the motion that Supervisor Desmond just made, which calls for just a continuance of the first item with further discussions.
Okay, so you're saying that what's on the screen is newly written by staff based on Supervisor Desmond's motion?
Correct.
Okay. And so
I understand, Vice Chair. Go ahead, Catherine. I'm sorry.
What can you explain then? What is the effect of number 2 in this motion?
The effect of number 2 is to authorize staff to go ahead and release the on-call RFQ, request for qualifications, procurement, where we seek qualified proposers to submit their statements of qualification to provide construction management services to the agency over a 5-year period. And then, as usual, the contract awards themselves would come back to the board for review at a later date.
Okay. So contract awards, what I'm trying to make sure is the case here is that we're not boxing ourselves into an amount that does not include public access. So can you just clarify that that won't happen? Because I can see a situation where we say we're going to pay this amount and it basically results in a fence going around 900 acres, which is much less expensive than having to maintain a trail system. So I want to make sure we're not getting ourselves so far down the line with this last part.
Yes, so I'm sorry, let me explain. These are actually 2 completely separate transactions. So item 2 has nothing to do with item 1 concerning the Lilac Ranch property. Item 2 is to address the need for construction management services on the list of projects that's showing in attachment 3 of your board report.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Then I'm okay with it.
Mr. Desmond.
Could we not do this in the future? Put 2 completely different items on the same agenda item, because they're not complementary of each other. It just seems kind of odd that we're doing the construction management.
Normally on a consent calendar, we could have 3 or 4 or 5 different proposed contract awards and solicitations. So that's why, but your comment is noted.
But so item 2 though does not in any way affect the conservation land that we're talking about here at all.
Correct. This is just an item bring to you on an as-needed basis to cover any procurements or contract awards over $5 million. So there have been numerous times where this report has included very separate transactions, but multiple transactions that reach that $5 million threshold where we're seeking approval from the board. We can consider separating each item into a separate agenda item in the future if that's the pleasure of the board.
Just,
Thank you,
just
Julie.
for a little thank you. Just a little historical. It wasn't just Supervisor Desmond that decided he wanted to manage his property. We were actually contacted, I think it was by Caltrans, because the negotiations were not going so well, I guess, at that time. And we were asked if we would be interested again, I guess. And so, but I'm not aware of the legality of the contract, but it was, we were approached and said, hey, would you be willing now to come back to the game? So we'll work all this out at the next time we hear it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further board comments or questions? Otherwise, we have a motion on the table as reflected on the slide. Turn your camera on if you want to speak. Okay, we have a motion from Supervisor Desmond, a second by me. It's reflected on the slide. Tessa, do we have any public comment on this remaining?
We do not.
Say no.
We do not.
Okay.
We do not. We do not.
Just double check it. Would you please take the roll call vote?
City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Corey Schumacher.
Schumacher, no.
City of Chula Vista, Mayor Mary Salas.
Salas, aye.
City of Coronado, Mayor Richard Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
County of San Diego, Supervisor Jim Desmond.
Yes, Desmond, thanks.
City of Del Mar, Mayor Ellie Haviland.
Haviland, yes.
City of El Cajon is absent. I'm sorry. City of Encinitas, Vice Chair Catherine Blakespeare.
Blakespeare, yes.
City of Escondido, Mayor Paul McNamara.
McNamara, aye.
City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Serge Dedina.
Dedina, aye.
City of La Mesa, Councilmember Bill Baber.
Baber, yes.
City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Raquel Vasquez. Mayor Vasquez, you are self-muted. Mayor Vasquez. I'll move on and come back to City of Lemon Grove. City of National City, Mayor Alejandra Sotelo Solis.
No.
City of Oceanside, Deputy Mayor Jack Feller.
Yes.
City of Poway, Chair Steve Voss.
Yes.
I see Mayor Vasquez is unmuted. City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Raquel Vasquez.
Yes.
Thank you. City of San Diego, Councilmember Vivian Moreno. Councilmember Moreno. James, can you tell if she is self-muted?
I believe she's no longer on.
Oh, okay, thank you. City of San Diego is absent. City of San Marcos, Mayor Rebecca Jones.
Jones, yes.
City of Santee, Mayor John Minto.
Minto, yes.
City of Solana Beach, Councilmember David Zito.
Zito, yes.
City of Vista, Mayor Judy Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Can you hear me? This is Vivian.
Oh, thank you, Councilmember Moreno.
No.
Thank you. I was City of San Diego, Councilmember Moreno. That item passes with City of Carlsbad, National City, and City of San Diego voting no, and El Cajon absent.
Thank you, Tessa, and thank you all. Tessa, do we have any continued public comment from the beginning of the meeting?
There are no continued public comments.
Thanks, Tessa, and thanks for all your hard work today. Our next meeting, folks, is June 12th at 10 a.m. And with that, we will stand adjourned. Have a good Memorial weekend.
Oh, we're adjourned? Yay!